when we made the application.
And the other question I had was about, snowplow removal, the thing on the agenda. I forwarded that 365 outdoor email to you. Did we not contact them before?
Bids were put in the paper. The advertisement for bid was put in the Elk Rapids News and the town and the Record Eagle.
And I think it ran twice in the Elk Rapids News.
And I did not ask for it to be run twice. I asked
Right.
for it to be run once, and for some reason they ran it twice. I have no
Right.
idea who gave them that authority, but
So, yeah. I was surprised we didn't get a quote from them, but both of those came in like the very last day.
Yeah. You get my email, chief?
Yes.
Sorry. I don't know how you got left off my list.
When do I need it?
Then as soon as you can.
is this for the newsletter?
Mhm.
I didn't get your email either.
Shouldn't have to send me one, ma'am. But I sure I did,
Well, what is the deadline?
as soon as you can.
Before Thanksgiving, I take it.
What day is Thanksgiving again?
Next week.
Yeah. Yes. We could get it by next Tuesday, that'd be great.
What's that date?
21st. I sent you something, didn't I, Don? I think the reply was, I'm not putting anything in.
Well, I didn't quite state it that way.
Well, okay, well, it was close, somewhere in that. You had nothing at this.
Your
you-
paraphrasing's
Yeah,
correct.
you had nothing at this particular moment. How's that? Since I may not be here when they get to new business number one. Good job. On getting the new recruit in. Wow, coming to you with 1 and 2 and a paramedic, that's pretty awesome. And a female, so now you're diversified. And if I'm here or I'm not, new business number 4 and 5, I'm in support of. Not that it's gonna make a difference when anybody else votes, just Ron had asked me if I wanted to say anything about the agenda since I may not be here. Right?
Well, my thought was if you want to rearrange something to help your schedule out, please do so, right? So the time to do that would be when we approve our agenda.
Not right now.
Well, I mean, I
We
wasn't
can't
looking,
call the meeting to order quite yet.
I wasn't looking for your
Okay.
observation on any particular business item. I was just merely extending the possibility that we could rearrange some things.
Like putting unfinished business and new business before consent calendar.
Exactly like that. Yes.
So how does the hunting camp go? You having a good time yet?
Haven't been there yet, so hurry up. We were there to set up last weekend, but that's it,
Are you going north, south, or local?
local.
That's no fun. You want to go away. That way you can't come to work. Right?
Yeah. All right, I show 9 o'clock. Carol, are you ready?
Yep.
Don?
I am.
Ardella?
Yes.
All right, so we'll call this meeting to order at 9 o'clock. Good morning, everybody. If you'll please stand, pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call when ready.
Goss here, Beck,
Here.
Glenn,
Here.
Pop,
Here.
Valmuth is absent.
Any changes to the agenda this morning? Okay. Any conflict of interest? Any public comment? Good morning, folks out in Zoom land. If you have any public comment, please use the raise your hand function and we will call on you. Seeing none, we will move into the next area of the agenda. No public hearings. Reports and presentations. No one here from the county. So that brings up fire department. Good morning, sir.
Good morning. That was quick. Not quite prepared. No, just kidding. Good morning, Brandon Flynn, Whitewater Township Fire Chief. So October was an uneventful month, which was good because I was out of town for the first 2 weeks. But you can see our year to date is kind of running neck and neck with last year. We did have the Iceman race on November 4th, which was really busy as far as the riders go, but the weather was nice, so we didn't have too much rescue activity, which was nice. As Della noted earlier, we did bring on a new firefighter, Samantha Mills. I think she is on the agenda a little bit later for her approval. But she comes from a couple other departments on the west side of the county. And she is fully trained and moved to the area recently on Bates Road, not exactly in Whitewater Township. But nonetheless, we'll still take her help, which is a good thing because we lost Ethan Pasalacqua. He resigned. He kind of has a lot going on and he wasn't very active to begin with, but he did join the, for whatever reason, he joined the Coast Guard reserves, and he's gonna be gone most of the year next year, so. You know, we wish him well and he's always welcome back, but in the meantime, he has some other life goals to tackle. So we're 1 for 1. And I do have another recruit that I'm kind of helping out with the process. He came from Pennsylvania where he has all of his training. And 2 years ago when the state changed their their training law, that Public Act 291. They included reciprocity, which was nice for us fire departments. Before, they didn't really have it. So now we're able to transfer all his training records over to Michigan State, but it's been kind of a bear working with Pennsylvania's Fire Marshal Division. So I'm still working on that. And I'm gonna submit some records to our state to see what else I need from them. So other than that, working on that. The brush truck is well underway. I did get Heights Machinery to agree to move over the skid unit. He said not a problem. He just needs to clear up a Saturday. And I think that might be this Saturday. But we'll have to see. He's kind of playing it by ear, but he said no problem. He'll just switch it over and then the brush truck will be pretty close after that. And I think that's all I have. Just business as usual.
Any questions for chief?
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thanks for the sunshine. We appreciate it. Yeah. PC report Heidi sent in by email, it looks like late last night. Did everybody get it? Or just me?
No.
I did not.
Okay, so she's asking me to read it in her absence. Board, the master plan continues to move forward with a final workshop. And now we await the results of that workshop. I hope each of you are following along as the information becomes available. Several excellent comments I received in the last week on how well the workshop was presented and executed. See the below outline as the top answers with the number one choice from each category. Group 1, preserve rural character. Have regulatory tools necessary to help maintain rural character. Discussion on 1 acre, 3 acre, 5 acre in different zones were discussed. Group 2, build a sense of community. Attract, expand the development in the northwest corner M72 and west of Elk Lake Road downtown. Group 3, respect rights of township residents and property owners. Have a clear, well-organized and effective zoning ordinance. Group 4, encourage economic opportunities. Most important, address short-term rentals with some form of regulations. All of these items were discussed and more importantly, branched out to other items on the same topic. All the items will now be tabulated and added to the next step of the master plan. Please note the dates on the last page of the packet. It is important that some of the board, if not all, attend to show support. This team is requesting your presence so your questions can be heard and answered and your thoughts, concerns can be added to the big process at hand. It takes a team to achieve goals and move forward. Either date works for myself. Oh, she must be referring to the last page of the packet as the PC special meeting. Yeah. So that is the PC report. Ron, what do you have for us?
I really don't have anything other than the memo I put in on page 52 of the packet. There were 2 items that are in new business, 4 and 5. So I think that when we get to those items, I think the discussion on those will keep everybody fully informed.
Okay. So I have lots of questions in the consent calendar. Couple for you, Ardella.
Oh, goody.
Does anybody else have questions in the consent calendar?
I just have one or two.
Why don't you go first?
Well, one's for Adela. And thank you, Cheryl, for getting out the revenue and expenditure reports. I know that we had the one expenditure out through 10/31, but the revenue for 9/30, I assume revenue comes from your side of the building, correct?
Yep.
So,
Well,
so
I have
just-
to post those receipts for September and I didn't have.
Yeah, I
time to
don't
put it.
post them in the
Okay.
report you're looking at.
Okay,
Right.
so, when can we expect to see that updated? Is it possible to get that?
As soon as I can get to it. I had some days off I had to take in September or this last month, I should say, and didn't get to it. I'll get to it as soon as I can.
Okay.
Barring other things coming up that have higher priority.
Very well. And then page 8 of the packet in the clerk's report, you make mention in there about reaching out to the IRS. Is there a further update on that available to us today?
Yeah, since I submitted that clerk's report, by the packet deadline, I spoke to the IRS and, as indicated, in there, we have, filed a new form 843 request for abatement. But the other issue that got resolved is, the gentleman I talked to, said that the, payroll tax payment should never have been put on the civil penalty. And so he reversed that. So we don't have that issue anymore of that payroll tax payment. I think it was for June 3rd last year. On the civil penalty.
So the money that was commandeered on the tax payment that we had made that the IRS took, is that being reapplied to the appropriate federal account then?
Yeah, it's back on the tax payment.
And that was from.
Otherwise,
last
we
year.
would have been short. Yeah, it was from last year. It was the June 3rd payroll taxes we submitted. I don't know when they seized it. It was. No, or was it this year? Therese, was that 22 or 23? That payroll tax payment that they put on the civil penalty? 22, yeah, from 22.
So anything that caused you to be late for that was reversed. Because
Yes.
it never should have happened.
He said that never should have been moved over. So he moved it back. I
So
mean,
that's-
he doesn't do it himself, but he gave it to the department that does do it.
Who's he?
I can't remember the gentleman's name.
It's wrote down, I'm sure, Baranj.
Yeah, I have my notes from my meeting.
So where we
Where
had
we
the one,
stand
we
is
had,
that we don't have that issue anymore.
right, but we still have the 2018 1099 issue, correct?
Well, that's what this is all about.
I understand that, but that's still outstanding. That's not resolved.
Yeah, the
is it?
civil penalty is still outstanding and we just filed another request for abatement. Per the advice of the gentleman I talked to. With some other detail that wasn't included with the first request, which Larry put in.
You said that was a form number that we filed?
I think it's 843.
So
Claim of-
we've requested to have this information provided to the board. How come we're not getting it?
Second time it's been in her. Clerk's,
No, we've
Report.
asked for the documentation, Ardella.
Well, you know, when I get time to put it together, but I have a lot of other things that are more important to do. So.
I don't think so.
Yeah, I do. I'm sorry to inform you. You really don't know what all we do in the clerk's office. It's obvious.
Mhm.
So when I get time to do it, I'll do it. I'm not gonna put a date on it. Other people don't seem to have any deadlines on things they do, so, and they take months and months and over a year to get them done, so, I won't be held to a deadline.
I will say, as somebody that's had to deal with the IRS through various different projects I've been involved in, it is not always easy to get straightforward answers from them or to get a timely response to requests. And like many things that has to do with larger government bodies, it's how you word your request. If you've worded it correctly or asked for the correct waivers, and it's not easy dealing with them.
And then I guess the other question I had, it was more for you, Ron, was page 102, the letter that was sent to Larry Wilson. Did he respond with any information?
No, no. He's got the clerk's attitude apparently.
Well, I will say this, Ron, that I think it's wrong to withhold payment to a vendor that has given us service under good faith, not knowing that there was some kind of process that should have happened before he was engaged. I don't think you do that.
Well, as it turns out, he's already made the payment had already been made to him. So he has it.
But the letter says it'll be
Yeah.
withheld. And I don't think that's fair to a vendor that gave us service in good faith.
Well,
It's just not right.
board-
Especially since we are not talking thousands of dollars here. We're talking about a reasonable fee for what he did.
you are welcome to your opinion, but
I
the
am.
board decided otherwise. Yep.
Well, I am entitled to my opinion. I'm
Yep.
just saying, it got brought up, so.
Anything else?
Yeah.
Consent calendar?
That's all I have heard the same.
So Della, I think it's on page 9. Park fund.
Mhm.
And road fund.
Okay,
Both of those appeared to have negative balances.
Yep.
I don't think we've made the transfers yet from this budget year, have we?
that I am not
To
aware
those
of.
accounts?
No
that-
transfers have been made.
But we need to transfer the money back that was put in general fund last year back into the park fund. That never got moved back. That needs to be done.
So while I concur with some of that statement, I think what we budgeted to be transferred should be done as quickly as possible.
And that was budgeted to be transferred. Plus other money to the
Why,
park fund.
what good does it do to wait? I mean, typically, we don't make those transfers until the end of the year.
No.
Is that
we-
just out of
we made them
convenience?
different times of the year when the clerk had time to do it. And when do you want to do it? Do you want to do it in December?
Whenever it's convenient for you. I'm
I
asking.
think there's a
I'm ju-
philosophical question here.
I'm just asking the
If
question.
we're going to allocate money for these different funds, maybe it should be done at the beginning of the year. Or when the funds become available, such as when tax time happens. And the money comes in, then maybe those funds should be transferred then. Instead of waiting until the end of the year, because the general account is now collecting any interest on that money that's actually been allocated to the other funds. I'm a fan of moving it over as soon as you can, so those funds actually get the interest, as little as they have been the last few years. It's not always been the case.
I thought we'd already made that decision to do that. That's,
I don't recall. I know we've had the
Budget transfers
discussion.
require a vote. It hasn't been on the agenda. Can't move money without board approval. And also, I quite frankly, with respect to the park fund, have no idea how much money you want to move. Because, I don't see us playing this, little game of we move a bunch of money over there. And then, you had your motion in October of, when was it? 22, that every year Della's supposed to move the 85% of the unexpended balance out of the park fund back to the general fund. So quite frankly, that's a bunch of Mickey Mouse work for us. So, what do you want moved over there? You've got a budget. You need to come up with what's your budget gonna be? Right now, that 181,000, I think, is 40,000 shy of where the park fund stands. as a deficit because we just paid pay application number one. That was close to $40,000 on 11/7. That is not included in that balance. And then you've gotta, what do you need for expenses for the rest of the year? You gotta pay Andrew. How much longer our park ranger's gonna be working? They appear to be painting picnic tables. And moving them around. What's gonna go on, normally park rangers would be done by now. The park would be buttoned up, cleaned up, and the park rangers would be done by now. So, I guess, you guys are gonna, as the ones who are managing the park, you need to figure out what you need moved over.
I quite frankly feel like we should just move it all back and leave the park money where it is. We've got this project going on. It just seems like a lot of back and forth when we don't need to. Just move the park money back, keep it the way it is until this project is done, because the money's gonna be needed there.
Yeah, and I have no idea what else
Or
is
we're gonna
coming
be
in
seeing
on
a
this
lot more of
project.
this negative stuff is what I'm saying, Ron.
The park money was moved because I felt it need a better sponsor. Plain and simple.
So
That's as nice as I can be.
so,
As
Better
nice as I
sponsor,
will.
what is that supposed to mean?
so next month, I'll just put in a request to move it back through the board action
The park
so
fund,
that this can stop. And we can, and it's all gonna be there. It'll be clear what money is what money. Not how much of the park money is sitting in general.
I get it.
and I will just say that when I took over the park fund had a balance of $33,000 in it. And when I got done with the park fund had almost $400,000 in it, which was money that was being saved for the boat project. And so we spent the money at the park extremely responsibly, did a ton of updates out there, got plenty of grant money to do that. So your insinuation that someone was misspending the park money, you weren't even out, you hadn't been to the park 5 times in 10 years as of last year. So I don't know, you don't even know what was going on at the park. So please don't insinuate that the park money was being mismanaged.
In regards to the general fund and the project, I mean, there was a dollar amount that was approved by the board in terms of a budget. And my recollection is that's what we discussed about moving back into the park fund. That was related to the final bids and the forecast of expenses. And I think with contingency, that was somewhere around $602,000.
Your budget document on the last page of the park fund shows exactly what the board approved. What the board adopted. All of those notations of budgeted transfers are in the final adopted budget document, which all of you were sent on April 10th. As well as what was planned to be spent out of 970 in each fund. We keep track of those. I keep track of those right on the budget document. That document was approved by the board at the budget public hearing on March 21st and finalized on April 10th. So you all can go right to that document and see what those figures were to the penny. Every transfer that was contemplated and where it went.
And my other question is on packet page 10. And that is the tower fund. Seems to me like Denny maybe was reviewing that every other year and making recommendations to us.
Our zoning administrator was.
For some reason, I remember Denny bringing this to our attention. Maybe that's just what he was doing. I don't really remember. But if that fund is supposed to take down that antenna,
I don't think it's enough there.
there's not enough there. And so, does anybody remember?
In all the time that I have been here, that tower removal fund has never been added to. So if there's some kind of rule saying we're supposed to add a certain percentage, 10%, whatever it may be, on an annual basis, that's never been done. And I've never been directed to do it. I believe, shouldn't that be in the lease? Don't,
Well, see,
I believe what Denny was researching, but don't quote me on this. Because it's been quite a while. I believe he had somehow, this isn't his job, of course. But somehow he came across the fact that payments weren't being made. Is what I seem to remember. And then we got a payment or something. I don't know. But I think, isn't this, we're just add interest to this every month. That's the only thing that gets posted to that every month.
right, but you said something interesting there, Cheryl. Maybe we got a payment once we questioned it. Well, if we'd gotten a payment, it would have been added to that account,
Yeah,
not
we
as
have.
rent.
Oh, no, I don't think I don't know. This is tower removal.
Yeah,
so
This isn't.
this is not our cell towers, right? This is the tower that's over here on Watson Road.
That's correct.
yeah,
It's the 320 foot or whatever.
okay.
So, I don't know that we have a lease, but we probably have something in the zoning files that would, otherwise, how would Denny find out about it, right? So there must be something on that parcel ID.
Did Denny write something up to us on it?
Cheryl, what do you recall?
I mean, I'll go
Was
back
it-
to
was
my,
The
it Denny?
extent of my memory has been exhausted.
Yeah, so at least it sounds like two of us think that Denny said something about this account. And so,
well, if he sent us something email wise, I probably still have it. I can go back through that file.
so maybe I can touch base with Bob and see what's in the,
What's going on here? My computer just went on. Apparently this strip is on fault. Switch it off or something. Is that powered on?
I'm still operating off a battery. I just plugged in my charger in case I needed it. But I can tell you if I can tell you real quick if I have power or not. I do not, Cheryl. It's not showing charging icon.
Well, I pushed the button. Now this is still working.
All right,
That's
so
still
I'll check
recorded
my
on my
files to see if I
computer.
can find
yeah,
anything.
and I'll see if what Bob can give us as far as information or something like that. And then my next question is in bills for payable. Actually, it's not. I lied. Don, I think it's in your report. Are you back online, Cheryl?
No.
Okay. Temporary pause while we get,
Yeah, my laptop is so old here that if I don't have it plugged in, like a desktop, it ain't working.
No, it did not, chief.
I show that I have power. Oh, there's the problem.
I have the
What's the
icon.
problem? Oh.
My,
Okay.
my battery charger icon is showing. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief.
Let us know when you're back up.
I will.
Okay.
Can't believe that stayed running. That doesn't run on battery at all. Yeah, it's supposed to, but it doesn't last very long. No screen yet. This is getting to be pretty old too. Bought in 2016. Still trying to log in.
That's all right.
Waiting for documents to open.
Don't start. Don't start.
Still waiting. I mean, you can talk about something as long as I don't need to write anything down in the minutes file. Till I get my document.
We'll just wait. That way you're not feeling rushed. My last powered down reboot was an hour.
Did it have a bunch of updates or something?
No, I mean, I update it on a regular basis and it just happened this morning since I've been out here. Edge updated, wiped everything out that I had open.
Getting close. Still waiting for my Word document to open. Okay, I got my Word document.
Yeah. Does it look like it's functionable?
Yep.
Okay. So the next question in consent calendar I have is on packet page 52. Don, that's your report. You provide us a link to the board packet. That's pretty cool. Thanks for doing that.
Yeah.
To PrAC. But in reading that information, what was the purpose of the spreadsheet? Because much of the information on it was from 2022.
Yeah.
Can you give me some surroundings on that?
I mean, chairperson has added it back there and it's typically included in there, but I haven't seen any updates on it. I think that it's kept in there as the other projects move forward, that it would be updated then. So rather than pop it in or out, I think the fact that it's just showing that there has not been any activity
Okay,
or any spendings on any of those projects. That is my opinion, not her statements, so.
okay, all right. And then on packet page 53, this is actually in the PC minutes under unfinished business number 2. This appears to be Randy Milnick giving an update. 37 articles can be condensed to 17 with better organization. We didn't approve a rewrite of the zoning ordinance, did we? Aren't they just taking what we have and putting it in Word format?
No. They are organizing the ordinance into a better format, putting things, it's a mess right now. And so they're doing a content neutral reorganization of the zoning ordinance to make it a document that functions. So there's not going to be anything left out. It's just being reorganized.
The
And it will
same
be in
material,
Word,
just
yes.
reorganized,
Yeah.
so that it makes better sense is what I'm understanding.
Yes.
And I would add to that, that formatting was somewhat, it was part of that package as well. Taking things from, and putting things into charts or matrices that would allow for a better read or interpretation of the data. I do agree that there was nothing in there being rewritten. However, there was some shuffling and potentially some renumbering to get things to flow that made more sensibility to it.
Well, I got 2 calls this past month about changes to one was lot line. Apparently the definition has been changed significantly. So I don't know that they're working on lot lines or whether this happened, how far in the past, but we, as a board, we've said any changes to the zoning ordinance has to be done through a public hearing, right?
Yes, I agree with that.
Yeah, that's gonna happen.
So, and then we as a board have also agreed that we get red lines, right?
Yes, to see the changes.
So we know where the changes have happened. You sure?
Yeah,
you've
this is,
seen-
this is such a massive rewrite from the sounds of it, and I haven't seen it. It's such a massive, reorganization.
And not a
that-
rewrite, a reorganization.
That's right. Yes, I shouldn't have said rewrite. It's a reorganization. And so things are going to be moved around. And so to do a red line, I don't know, maybe Randy can do that. He's the one we're paying to do this. Or certainly he could make a list of this moved here and this moved here and this is why. I think until we see the document, we probably shouldn't criticize it too much. I know a lot of work is being done on it.
But we
And
should have some idea of what's being done, right?
we
Progress wise.
Well, we did sign a contract with him. His contract was redone in order to and whatever the contract says, that's what he's doing. And I think right now it's just at the planning commission and I'm sure Randy would send you the document if you want to see it, but it's not anywhere near being done. From my reading of the minutes, I'm not at their meetings. Of course, it's gonna require a public hearing and maybe a couple public hearings, but it's meant to be a content neutral reorganization of the zoning ordinance because, for instance, the fence standards are in definitions, in the definition section, and there's not a good map. The Article 5, where the districts are laid out in survey format, are not usable. So those are the kind of things they're addressing.
Well, it's rare that I get 2 phone calls from different people in 1 month.
Well, were they complaints? What were the phone calls about? I mean, it's not even
Public
done yet.
hearings, specifically public hearings. So,
Wanting to know when one's going to be?
yeah,
Well, I don't
So-
think they're ready for a public hearing yet.
we're gonna have changes on a 320-page document at 1 public hearing.
That document's not 320 pages.
It's gotta be.
It's only
close.
ever 180 or 190. Way back when I got a copy of it in like 2006, I think it was 192 pages.
Okay, so 180-page document. We're gonna have 1 public hearing on it.
Maybe not. They might split it up.
Yeah.
The thing is that none of the information is being changed, it's just being reorganized.
Yeah.
It's not.
You know
going to
that
be
for a fact,
adopted.
Ardella.
That's what's been stated in all their meeting minutes.
It,
That's their conversation that's been reported in the meeting minutes. So I can only go by what is being said in their meeting minutes. I don't know their,
Sure.
and it can't be utilized until it's been adopted by the board. And so before that, it has to go through public hearing at the planning commission. The board can have a public hearing if they want to. Changes will likely be made. There might be another public hearing. There doesn't have to be. Changes can be made without having another public hearing and it be adopted. It's quite a process. Of course, we've all been through zoning ordinance amendments, and this is just kind of like a giant zoning ordinance amendment.
So on packet page 57, again, they indicate in PC special minutes that provide the best red line version we can on the zoning.
It sounds like they're planning to do that then.
Yeah. Okay, well, I'm the only one, I guess, that is thinking.
Well, if you're getting contacted about public hearings, I hope you're telling people that, yes, there will be public hearings because the statute mandates it.
I just don't, I look at it this way, you gotta trust the people you've hired to do this job.
I
If
just
they are
am concerned
presenting,
about budget, right? And so if we start doing more than what we agreed to, then our budget gets shot. That's my
that's the
only
only concern
concern.
you are
That's,
having.
that's the
Okay.
only concern I have.
Well, I think we've already addressed that. We added more money to their budget just a couple meetings ago for Randy's services. And and I do believe it sounds like from their minutes that they're already working on what their next fiscal year budget is going to need to be to finalize the master plan, finalize this zoning project. So I'm not too worried about this year's budget.
The
reorganization
reorganization-
$2,800 computer that you wanna buy, that there's no money in the planning commission budget for that.
No, yeah.
My-
Just to be clear, you don't have a problem with the reorganization. It's just budget concerns.
Well, I have a problem if we're changing, if we're changing things. We should be breaking that up into smaller public hearings, so we don't have this huge document at the end of the process to go through and vet out. That just seems like we're setting ourselves up for failure. And so if they want to change 10 definitions, then send it to public hearing and have a public hearing on those 10 definitions. If they want to change section 12, whatever that is,
That doesn't sound like a good waste, doesn't sound like a good use of money because it's costly to have public hearings. And let's let them get their work done on this. We've got some good people on the planning commission right now. We've got a planner and we've got people that are working towards a goal that we agreed to allow them to pursue. So let's let them do their work. Quite frankly, I don't want to go to a bunch of public hearings that only thing on the agenda is 10 definitions. That's ridiculous.
that was an example.
Okay, well,
That's an example of how ridiculous you are.
no,
Right.
no, because I'm advocating that we just let the planning commission do their job. The job that we've asked them to do and the job that we've budgeted for them to do.
Well, they've talked for a long time. Many different zoning administrators, many planning commissions about how difficult our current zoning ordinance is to navigate.
Oh, it's a shambles.
So reorganization was always high on their priority, not changing things, but reorganizing.
2/3 of the
So that it
pages
was
say draft.
easier to navigate.
I mean, that's an abomination.
And as they're going
2/3.
through that process, of course, they're gonna come across things that are needing corrections. Like definitions and stuff like
I
that.
just, I didn't think that's where we were at in the budget process. We were gonna have them convert it and then do something at a different time. But
Yeah,
okay,
I think it's in a processing stage right now.
okay.
They're working through it. At least that's what I read in the minutes.
So the next question I have is on packet page 59, and this is from a PrAC meeting. Number 1 under unfinished business. And Don, maybe pending this discussion, this is maybe you taking it back to PrAC. Even though the ARPA reimbursement information might require at least 2 bids for anything above $10,000, we still need to follow our internal purchase policy. Do we agree on that?
Well, we don't have to go out for sealed bids till 20,000.
And in this case, it says 250,000 for sealed bids. And I just think that we should follow our own policy. If it's more restrictive than this ARPA guideline,
Yeah, I don't
then
think,
so be it.
yeah, I don't think the ARPA 250,000 sealed bid rule should apply. If our rule's 20,000, then it should be 20,000.
Yeah, but I think all she's doing is pointing out what the ARPA requirements are.
That's the way I took it.
Okay,
So,
all right. So it's consensus, though, that we should follow or we will follow our internal purchasing policy.
Well, sure. Why wouldn't
I
we?
don't think anybody's asked to deviate from
Okay.
that.
I'll make mention of that at the next PrAC meeting.
And then my next question is on packet page. $117. We have payments to the county for master plan maps. And then we're also getting billed for master plan maps from Leah. I think this shows up in a couple of different places. I just want to make sure that we're not paying Leah and paying the county.
Well, somebody asked for a purchase order through the county for maps for master plan and zoning purposes. And then we were sent a bill that matched up with the purchase order. So I don't remember who requested that purchase order. $62. And then Leah, where's that on here?
Leah just came to me via email and I sent it to Rachel and Heidi for them to verify the work has been done.
Well, I haven't seen that then.
Right.
Whatever their contract says that they get to invoice us for.
It could be just that it is different maps too.
Yeah,
I would
and
suspect.
we just, I think somebody should differentiate that, right? So whoever made the purchase should be able to say, yep, it is or isn't part of the Leah project.
Well, if Leah sent us an invoice, then it's something that was under their. They probably have a budget. I don't remember their contract for incidentals and things like that, so,
Would
you
you
can
like to
ask,
pay twice for
we're
the
gonna,
same
we're gonna
map?
check and make sure in accounts payable, we're gonna check and make sure it was allowed by the contract as well.
Is it the same map?
I haven't seen the maps. We don't
And
get the
that's
maps,
my
we just
point.
get the bills.
That's my point.
Okay, well,
So how can you determine that it is or is not the same map?
well, I believe that these Grand Traverse County maps for master plan and zoning purposes were, I'm recalling that was a PO that was requested by you on behalf of the planning commission.
That was a long time ago. I'm sure that's been done by now.
I don't know, I'd have to pull out the check.
Sure.
To know, and look at the PO and look at the invoice and. This isn't enough information on this page to tell what kind of maps it was.
And my next question is on 119. The late fees for the Visa card don't belong to my account. Those were board purchases, so. the
Well,
Board,
you didn't get the invoices to us on time, and so your credit card bill was paid late, and
it's not my fault.
no, nothing's ever your fault.
Good.
We can't pay the bill until we get the invoice, until we get the invoices or statements to make sure the charges are legit.
And I
So,
reconcile that as quickly as possible.
Well,
I
you're
know
gonna
that
be
my
getting your
visas through
statement earlier
Alden,
now. You're
the
gonna be
payment
getting your
clears in
statement
one
earlier
day.
now.
So
So, we're going,
for it not to clear for, 10 or 20 days, that's odd.
Well, we we do checks every 2 weeks. So this week, we're doing payroll. Last week, we paid bills. Next week, we'll pay bills again. So you need to get your invoices and statements to us as soon as you have the bill, which you'll have the bill, your statement sooner now, since you're going to be getting it off of your online account. You won't have to wait for us to get it in the mail. And then, and I mean, you should know what you charged. When I charge something, I have a folder that I put all the credit card charges in. And so when my bill comes, we simply match it up. And when the chief's bill comes, we simply match it up with those things and it's ready to pay. Boom. It
So-
takes days for you to get us your invoices and statements.
Ardella, Cheryl indicated that we do have online access to the cards.
I'm sure we do. I've never used it. I rarely ever use my card, so I don't.
Mhm.
And there is, in the past, when Cheryl was ordering things, honestly, Ron, if she ordered something, she got the invoice. If I ordered something with her card before I had mine, I printed out the invoice and I gave it to her right away.
I see.
So that when she got the statement and it was already there available to match it up. And if you do that, and
So
she's
I've
getting
been,
the statement, that'll happen behind the scenes automatically.
so I've been taking the responsibility of reconciling the credit card statement onto myself.
You don't have to, that's what accounts payable does.
Okay. That's
So as long
that's
as you
fine with
turn
me.
those documents in, like I always did it
Hey, it takes
immediately
work
because
off
I
of my
wouldn't
plate.
wanna, I don't wanna have to make Cheryl come look for me. In other words, I can't pay this statement because I don't have the documentation to prove that this was done by me. So I would always print it right away, either email it to her or send it, paper copy in her box.
Okay, if I
Your
don't have,
statement will tell you exactly how to gain online access to your account.
But
I'm not talking to you, I'm talking to
Oh.
Ron. What website you go to, I don't know what it is. I had online access when I had the only credit card. I went to the account online periodically to make sure I had all of the paperwork for all of the charges so that when the bill came, the very next time we paid bills, the bill could be paid. Because if it's not paid for 2 weeks after that on the accounts payable schedule, it's very likely going to be late.
long as I know I don't have to reconcile a statement, I'm good.
You need to provide the statements or invoices for everything you charged.
I can do that. And so you'll take care of matching them up with the,
That's
okay,
what we do in accounts payable.
great. I'm done with questions. If anybody else has any.
I have no further.
I'm good.
Motion to approve the consent calendar.
I'll second.
Motion made and seconded. Further discussion?
we gonna vote on this?
Didn't I ask for a roll call?
No,
Need a motion, she seconded it.
that's the
Yeah.
last I heard.
Roll call when ready, yeah.
Baummuth is absent. Bennett,
Yes,
Pop,
No,
Glenn,
Yes.
gracias.
motion to forward the list of email addresses as amended 11/14 to NetLink Business Solutions for creation and migration.
second,
Motion made and seconded. Further discussion.
I have some comments. On page 264. Second row, second column, depth treasure is spelled wrong.
Second row, second column. Isn't that what you currently use now? Ardella?
I don't use it.
Depth, TREA. No, there's supposed to be an S on that.
DEP is for deputy, and then TREA is supposed to stand for treasurer, correct?
But it's has an S on it. Depth treasure.
So actually then the current email address is wrong too.
It is.
And I don't see that. I see that in the last line of both the first and second columns. I'm sorry, yeah, under the board.
So
Yeah,
just
it-
add the
it's-
S, Ron.
Okay,
It never
you please?
was depth, TREA.
But
That's
you're right, it should
incorrect.
have an S.
okay. What else?
Third row, third column. Luann Snyder is the director of the Historical Society, not the chairperson. Her position is actually director. Sixth row, second column, camping should be lowercase. Everything else has been done in lowercase. So I don't know why we would capitalize camping.
I would add in that same box. I looked at my notes and I don't recall, maybe I just didn't jot it down, but I don't remember a park ranger, email address, because the camping is what the park rangers access.
That's
at-
right.
At the station. We did want to have the park manager one, but, I don't know, maybe there was discussion about it, but I just couldn't find anything in my notes. And if it's not too far gone, I don't think we need it.
No, I think that the park ranger was a suggestion. Because over in the left-hand column, it's not active now,
Hmm,
right? And so, I don't know if that was if it was just a recommendation or what.
Yeah.
So, I think that was on the first sheet, but we can delete that.
yeah, I think we should. I don't.
Okay.
I think, no sense having that.
It will just create confusion. Where you don't want the public having two different email addresses to send refund requests or whatever, change their reservation, questions about the park. Should all be directed to one email address.
Some of these won't be published, right? So to your point, Cheryl, there should only be one that's published. This is really for internal communications, not that one can't get out.
Well, there should be camping at Whitewater, whatever it is, here, the new address needs to be the main address that people use. If they want to get a hold of the manager, they can get specifically, then he has his email address. But the general reservation and any other question address should be camping at Whitewater Township mi.gov. And that should be published. I don't know why Andrews couldn't be published too, but maybe it's just given out by the Rangers.
What else do we see on the list?
On page 266, first row, second column, the capitalization of PC in the first row also should be lowercase to follow the rest of the naming conventions. I don't have any other changes, but I have another comment about budget.
Okay.
So, I don't remember if this has been budgeted for back in March. So if we're gonna have any bills for this that are gonna roll in before the end of the fiscal year, we're gonna need a budget amendment. So really, we need some kind of, was this budgeted for? These email addresses and this monthly fee and stuff like that?
No, because we didn't start having the issues until well into this fiscal year.
Okay, so you're gonna need to work up some kind of budget, how much, and so we can do a budget amendment and determine out of which line item in the general fund this is gonna come from
Where was,
to get us through this fiscal year.
where was, NetLink Services invoice gonna be paid from?
Well, where there, I'm talking about these monthly fees.
I
guess.
understand, but I
Yeah,
mean, I would take it out of the same account, is what I'm trying to say. Is
well,
that
why would you do that?
we agree,
We've always taken, for instance, Spectrum hosts our email. So we're going to have a different email. Spectrum is not gonna be hosting our email anymore.
Spectrum hasn't hosted our email. in quite
Spectrum is
some-
hosting our email to this day.
Mm-mm.
We pay the Spectrum bill every month for internet. Yeah, we do.
Well, that's
No,
for internet,
you-
that's not hosting.
Well, no. The only thing we did was change the domain name registration from Name Secure to GoDaddy. That did not change who's hosting our email. Spectrum is still hosting our email.
Gotcha.
So, the email the email, which comes as a service because of the provision of internet to this building, has been paid out of the 851 internet account. So the Spectrum bill always has to be divided up between what's phone, which is $924, I believe, and internet/website, which is $851. Both for here and for the fire station. And so I guess I'm asking, we're still going to have Spectrum is still, I believe, going to be providing us with internet. So we're still gonna have the internet bill. But we're gonna have this different bill, which we've already just paid some $200 and some DNS fee. What line item will we be paying these email fees out of? Is question number one. How much do we need to budget in that line item for these monthly email fees? And what line item in the general fund will we take money from to fund these new email charges
For the rest of the year.
for the rest of the fiscal year? Because I assume this is gonna happen before the end of the fiscal year, so we're gonna start getting bills. Do we need to create a new account number for the email? Or is it going to be lumped in with the internet/website 851 account? Which is gonna make it a little less easy to track. Because if you want to separate them, you'll have to add up each one.
Well, maybe we don't make the switch to .gov.
Postpone it to the new fiscal year? Is that what you're?
Well, we've already paid an annual fee.
Yeah, so that annual fee was part of the deadline that .gov puts on us. And I'm sure there's gonna be another one here coming up shortly to start using the service. Otherwise, it will just be considered a dormant account. DNS, the host server farm. That's an annual subscription, so the $250 was an annual subscription, but that had to be activated by, I don't know, I think September 30th. And that was a deadline from .gov.
I think we just need to move forward. And if we need to make budget amendments, we will.
So where do you see,
We are not a line item. I mean, we put everything in line items, but we're actually a cost center.
Yeah.
Budget. So if we run over on this year, but there's still money in the budget, we're still balanced.
Yeah.
So I don't see this as a big roadblock. And Cheryl, as far as where to put it and transparency, it's still all a part of our internet email activity. I would still put it in the 851.
I concur.
Makes sense to me.
So any expenses relating to this switch over to .gov will go under 851.
I would think so. The first year we do it, obviously, it's gonna be more expensive.
But you asked, you did not, that's a different question, Cheryl. You asked about the monthly fees. And I concur with Ardella on the monthly fees. As
But-
far as the rest of the services that we would pay NetLink, those should come from professional services, just like we hire some computer repair. We don't put computer repair under 851.
But if there's fees like that, $250,
Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah,
that's what I'm talking about.
but the migration, that was what, 4,800 or 5,000 bucks?
But that's a one-time.
That's a
Right,
one
so I,
time.
I think it's how you class it, if it's a one-time expense and it should go.
But Cheryl changed the question when she said all expenses related to .gov. So I concur that the monthlies go to 851. But the other labor items that we're gonna incur, I think, get filed to professional services or computer repair or whatever. Thoughts?
I say we move forward. We
Yeah,
have a
I
mo-
just needed to know where to put it. So that's where we'll put it.
Monthlies. Go to 851.
I have down monthly fees related to the switch over to .gov should go to 851. NetLink labor fees should go under professional services or computer repair.
We're gonna vote?
Um. Roll call when ready.
Goss, yes, Falmouth is absent. Glenn,
Yes.
Pop,
Yes.
Bennett,
Yes.
Motion to approve the independent contractor agreement and 3 attached work scope maps as amended.
I'll second.
Motion made and seconded. Further discussion?
well, the motion should actually include the name of the independent contractor. Motion to approve the independent contractor agreement. We don't have their name anywhere in here.
You wanna amend your motion, Ron, to include the name?
So it looks like we should add Stevens Lawn Care and Snow Removal LLC.
I think it says Steve's. No, and
Did I say Stevens?
Stevens.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
You're talking on page 272, that's.
That's where I'm at.
Yeah.
Yeah, 272.
What's the name again?
Steve's with apostrophe S, Lawn Care and Snow Removal LLC.
So the motion, the amended motion would be to approve the independent contractor agreement between Steve's, whatever it was, and Whitewater Township, and the 3 attached work scope maps as amended. in doing this particular project and specifically the maps, I learned that maybe we need to protect ourselves from the post office next door. As I understand, they are using our property. They are maintaining our property to the west of the fire station. And as we all know, that leads to problems.
Well, I don't think they're gonna be there in a couple of years. Because they're building a new general plant in Traverse City and Grand Traverse County. And all post offices will be reporting there to pick up their mail. Yep.
Well,
I
we
think-
own just onto the concrete. We own the road. When that was surveyed back when we were doing the fire station renovation addition project, we own up onto the concrete a little bit.
Yep. And so I just think we should have.
So, but they're plowing that.
Right.
The post office is plowing that, so let them plow it. It's less cost to us.
I'll be bringing an agreement forward so we can protect the township assets.
I'm ready to vote.
Roll call when ready.
Bennett,
Yes,
Glenn,
Yes.
Gosh, yes. Falmouth is absent. Huh,
Yes. Any questions on the campground predicament? Cheryl, I have one for you with respect to waterways payment. Do you have all the information you need to submit to them?
don't we have to have all the pay applications paid and
I don't
It's
think
gonna
we
be-
have to wait for individual pay applications. You were going to submit a pay app for. I don't know,
no, Police and
F&P.
Vanderbrink does that. It's
F&P
part of their
does?
contract. They submit the pay applications to the state. They submit all the payment, what's been paid to the state. That's part of their contract.
So
I can provide them with copies of the checks.
so right now, as it stands, maybe I'm not understanding this correctly, but right now, as of today, there is no work being done.
mm-mm. Um. So I don't know if you've been out there recently or not, but after the 2 inches of rain we had. All the work that we met on with respect to stormwater runoff and sheet draining and installing those 2 catch basins, none of that worked. None of it.
And it was fully installed.
And it was fully installed. And so, turns out that maybe the basins might have been an inch high and the edge of the parking lot an inch low. I don't know what the numbers are. But that created a 2-inch differential, which just allowed the water to go right on by the catch basins. My point is to engineering staff, is that the catch basins are 6 feet away from the edge of the parking lot. The south edge. They're 100 feet away from the north edge. Not even in the center, not even close. So they're expecting a couple inch variation. I think it's 0.3 of a foot. So that would be 4 inches in total to catch that entire acre of water and send it down the drain. I'm not a stormwater drain engineer, but that doesn't make sense to me.
But what's the solution here, Ron?
That's what I've asked them to come up with. And they claim that the 4 inches or the 3/10 of a foot will be enough to catch all the water. So. And then why it didn't work first time around? Don't know.
Was it because we had an unusual amount of rain?
No, no. Matter of fact, according to F&P, the recorded amount was 1.97 inches, so it was under 2 inches.
And they didn't have any explanation for the failure? Or they
Other-
didn't know about the failure?
No. I let them know the day after, but it's because the catch basin was an inch too high and the edge of the driveway or parking lot, excuse me, is an inch too low. So that allowed the water just to go right on by.
It just sheeted, flowed right over the bypass the drain, just went all the way around it by looks and then got to the end, to the south drop off, and there was no lip there or any mound, and it was just a free for all down the side.
That's exactly what we tried to avoid by installing those catch basins, but it didn't work.
Do we know when we're gonna be hearing back from them on this?
So a meeting, we tried to schedule a meeting last week and somebody couldn't get together. And then we can't schedule anything this week because somebody's in Florida, I guess. So it looks like the earliest possibility is the week of the Thanksgiving. I don't know.
And it's probably not gonna happen because people are at deer camp, and I'm not just talking about you.
Yeah. So, this, and Molon wants to get the erosion problem, where the water is actually washed away. They want to get that repaired so they can get paid. But my point is that they can fix it. But what's going to stop it from happening again? Correct whatever needs to be corrected, then fix the erosion problem. And up on the upper entrance area, all the water from the park entrance, I'll say, comes down to where the trash bin pad was at. And that's a lot of water. So this is all, in my opinion, all elevation related.
No, there's quite an elevation change out there.
Yep.
There
Yep.
always has been.
And I don't know if it's because we did the topographical survey with 14 inches of snow on the ground. But we had multiple years to come back when there wasn't snow on the ground and check a few points.
And I don't know what else, other than 50% of the mobilization charges, I know, were not, in pay application number 2. And so there's gonna be a pay application for that. And then, is the project done but for this erosion problem?
Yeah, matter of fact, pay application 3 and final pay application number 4 are with Rick Stout right now.
Mhm.
Because the project was done.
Yeah.
And
So
now
you have,
realize that the engineering or the construction of the engineering does not work as we intended.
okay, well, what I'm getting to is that right now, I believe, we've paid just over $400,000. And so it's gonna be a something over $400,000 project. And, you've got a December 31st deadline, as I understand it, to get those expenses turned in to the state for reimbursement, the 50% matching grant of 200,000. Doesn't matter how much you spent over 400,000. the most you're gonna get is 200,000, and right now you've already spent a little over 400,000. So, I guess we need to finish paying these pay applications. Hopefully Rick will get them to us soon, ready for payment. And, then the documentation, can be submitted to the state in order to get that $200,000 matching grant.
But that's
Back.
FMP's responsibility according to you.
That's what I remember.
Okay.
You'd have to check the contract documents, but I'm quite sure that their work scope says that they submit those documents to the state.
Because you were wanting to submit something for their fees like 6, 8 months ago, maybe even a year ago. You were
Oh,
waiting. to get
we
that.
don't have to wait. You actually don't have to wait until the end to do it, but you have to get them in by the deadline. But you're not, what I'm saying is you've already spent over 400,000. And so you're not going to, and I can't remember what all the stipulations are for submitting the money. It's in their contract. It's in their contract documents, F&B's contract documents, what they do. But I think the deadline was December 31st. I'm pretty sure we don't.
Oh, yeah.
We've already had one extension, so.
So are you saying, Cheryl, that given the fact we have slightly more than 400,000, that it's irrelevant to the state that we may have another 150,000?
Oh, they couldn't care less.
That as long as
They're
they
not
have
gonna break it.
$400,000 bona fide payments,
That's
that
right.
will qualify for the $200,000.
That's right. Their grant, their matching is only
200.
up to 200,000. If you had spent 350,000 and you were done, then you're only gonna get 175,000.
Right.
So
But
you've
there's-
already spent more than 400,000. So I'd forgotten about F&B's fees. But I'm just talking about what's been paid to Molon already is over 400,000. So,
And I think the project has to be done. Because we had a concern whether or not soil erosion had to be signed off.
Right. And I never heard an answer. I know we talked to Andrew Filler about that, and
Right.
I don't recall getting an answer back on that but he was communicating directly with you, and so
Yeah.
I don't know if
Yeah,
that
he
request.
believes as long as the principal items,
well,
elements.
soil
are there.
erosion, that's a local thing. That's the local soil erosion office.
He believes
So-
as long as the main elements are there,
That's right.
that it's a payable.
Mhm.
My point is, the main elements are not there. At least as they're designed. And so I don't know how
Well, the
they're
boat
going to
ramp's
explain
been
that.
done. You just got done saying it's done, except for this, which was an add-on. These catch basins and whatnot were not part of the original project.
But mind you, Cheryl, everything in the upper boat launch area also contributes to this. There's erosion up there too. And so,
Water runs downhill
and it was never
Downhill.
addressed
all the way.
in the original design. It just wasn't.
Guys, I have to go.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so,
I'm gonna leave my stuff here. Maybe you will still be here when I get back. And I can rejoin the meeting.
about
Okay.
how long do you think you're gonna be down?
I have no idea. Depends on what she needs to talk to us about. So,
so I'll get with, thanks, Ardella.
welcome.
Be careful.
Are you worried about, you're more worried about traffic than me? Or are you telling the people out there to be careful about?
Yeah, either way you want to go. So I'll get with F&B and make sure that they submit items for payable. The other item here, is the park, is there any other questions on number one?
I don't have any additional.
Okay. Item number two, Jim Sundberg is indicated that there are much better reservation apps out there now, specifically made for campgrounds. And the new apps have an integral credit card payment process, point of sale, I guess, is the right thing to say. And for multiple reasons, we may look into that. Is that
I think we want to explore that, and see what it looks like, at least get some overview on it to see if it's. I don't want to trade one like product for another like product. If it's not a improvement, then, why are we doing it?
okay?
And I guess without getting some links or something to look, something to look at.
Mhm.
Yeah. Cause I don't know what those are.
Right,
he's
I don't
he's
either.
made mention to me as well. I just don't know what they are.
And then Mike Dwyer, he's current park ranger out there. He's the one doing the tables, I think. We would like to try and keep him on as long as possible. And so I've actually thought about having him help me in the supervisor's office. We can pay him maybe out of 703 from my department. Items that he would work on would probably be, well, we'd like to get that emergency plan
Yeah.
to the next level. And I know there's significant changes in there because it was kind of copied from a state level. So I don't know how exactly that'll work out, but Mike's an asset that I don't think we want to lose for next season.
Well, I think you're gonna have to bring a motion to get board approval to pay him out of that fund.
Yeah, I would do that. Yeah. And just know that, what are you thinking, Cheryl? Can we stop short of making him the deputy supervisor? Or is the deputy
That's up to you.
supervisor the only person that can get paid out of that account? And
Well,
obviously,
Heidi wants to get paid out of the deputy clerk account for doing minutes, so are we setting a precedent there?
well, that's a good point. I don't know. So some more thought will be put forth on that, I guess.
I mean, if he's doing park things, only park things, then why wouldn't he continue to just be paid out of the park fund?
Right.
If he's doing something else, then what is he doing and where's he gonna get paid out of?
Yeah.
If it's not park related or recreation fund related.
Right. My thought was, my hands are gonna be full with these potential grading changes or whatever F&V comes up with. And it takes away my ability to chase the MNRTF application. Maybe we have him do that. Okay, so that's an idea. Any other questions on 1, 2, or 3? New business number 1.
Motion to approve Samantha Mills as a probationary firefighter for the Whitewater Township Fire Department.
I'll second.
Motion made and seconded. Further discussion? Didn't see that motion in the packet. Is that one that you wrote up, Cheryl?
I made it up because I didn't see one in the packet.
Oh, that's all right, chief. You seconded that, Don?
I did.
Motion made and seconded. Further discussion? Roll call when ready.
Pop,
Yes.
Goss, yes. Muth is absent. Bennett is absent. Glenn,
Yes.
Planning Commission computer. Motion authorizing the purchase of one laptop for Linda Slopesmo with Microsoft Office, Adobe Pro, and ESET antivirus from NetLink Business Solution, price not to exceed 2,800.
I'll second.
Motion made and seconded. Further discussion?
well, we recently amended the planning commission budget, but there was no indication that $2,800 was gonna be needed. And so they don't have it in their budget for that. We've been expensing these to 727. Their 727 account is actually just slightly overspent at the moment. And so I'll need to know, we'll have to do a budget amendment. We can do it here if you want, but what line item in the general fund will this $2,800 be deducted from to go into the planning commission budget? Also seems like no one really needs a $2,800 computer, but I get it, that's some labor for NetLink too, but these aren't computers that are doing, they don't have to be the top of the line anything because they're not doing complicated mathematical computations and whatnot. The usual choices are contingency or we took the last planning commission budget amendments out of oh geez, what did that? Capital expenditure, I think. We removed some money that was gonna go for some improvements around here.
Yeah, I see, because this is a capital expense, that would be the right fund to pull it from.
Well, but we've been expensing computers. We decided that we were going to expense computers. So that's the last number of computers have been expensed, and it either needs to be one or the other. So we are consistent in
So
how
the-
we do that. We
so-
need a budget amendment to,
The last time I
Expense.
purchased computers, we had to bring it to the board because it was a capital expense. Now you're. Now you're
no
saying that
computers have been, no computers have been, no computer purchases have been, posted to the capital expenditure line item. They've all been expensed. The one you just bought for Keaton, is posted to planning commission office supplies and expense. The ones for the trustees were posted to, because that's a decision the board made back at budget time. That those were not gonna be taken out of capital expenditure. So, I mean, if you're changing your mind again, then, but $300, $400, $500, $600, $700 computers don't need to be capital expense.
Well, I don't change my mind on it.
No, I'm telling you what the board decided back at budget time.
What is our capital asset policy?
The board decided at budget time that computers would be expensed, not taken out of capital expenditure.
I recall that as well. I think we talked about, what our capital asset policy was, and I think we agreed that at that time that there were not, at that time, there, how many computers were needed, and the question was, there were a few. And so, we would deal with those as they came up and needed, and although you're right, the request would come to the board for the expenditure, and that they would be expensed, due to the relatively low price point. Now, granted, you add in the software and some other things, you're still pushing, north of $2,000, but I think at the end of the day, expensing those, I personally think it's better to expense them.
Okay.
Well, I think the one for Al Keaton was $1,200, if I'm reading this correctly.
Yeah, I think that's what it was.
$1,208.64. So are we gonna continue to expense them? If we are, then we need to move some money. We need a budget amendment to be able to expense them to the planning commission. And that's what we've done with the Rubel computer, I believe, the Darrow computer.
Good. We won't bother bringing it back to the board for approval. We'll just make the purchase. Get a purchase order and make the purchase. Again.
Yeah,
It saves me
that's
a lot
what-
of time.
and that's just the point. A purchase order could have been requested and issued, and on 2 signatures for this amount, the expenditure could have been made. So,
I still say we pull it out of capital expense of the general fund.
Funding for it,
Yep.
and transfer that over to 727
Yep.
to the PC.
So just to be clear, no other computer purchases. No computer purchases are considered capital expense.
not in this fiscal year, they haven't been.
Okay.
So we could vote on a budget amendment right now. I guess we have a motion on the table already.
Well, you said that the account is already slightly overspent anyway. So,
By $58. Their cost center is not going to be over. That $58 is not going to put their cost center over. But taking another $2,800, putting another $2,800 into office supplies and expense, only 2,000 was budgeted and 2,058 has been spent. So we need to move some money into PC, Planning Commission, 727 account. You say you want to take it out of the capital expenditure account in the general fund. So that's a budget amendment that has to be voted on by the board.
okay,
So we already have one motion on the table.
roll call when ready.
Glenn,
Yes.
Pop,
Yes,
Fennec is absent. Goss, no. Balmuth absent. And I'll make a motion to move $2,800 from general fund capital expenditure to PC office supplies to cover the cost of the $2,800 computer.
Okay, I'll second it.
Motion made and seconded for the discussion. So if we already know it's overdrawn by $58, thinking they've got a few months to go, wouldn't it be wise to do more than 2,800? Wouldn't it be wise to do at least 2,858?
I'm just trying to get this expense covered. You got a different amount, propose your different amount. I'm sure the PC will take it,
Well, didn't you say they were overspent?
but it's not going to put their department over
Gotcha.
budget.
Okay, gotcha.
So we don't need to worry about the $58.
Okay.
If another computer gets bought for another PC member in this fiscal year, we'll have to do the same thing again.
Right, got it. Roll call.
Bennett is absent. Bonnet is absent. Pop,
Yes.
Glenn,
Yes.
Goss, yes.
The next item is employer transition. I didn't know what to call it. There is no motion. This is to give me some direction. You see some comparison numbers there. Small group versus the healthcare platform. Any input?
It's a lot of money. Township, I think the need, that doesn't, the need, I think, is there. It's just a question of how you go about this. I've been rolling around several ideas in my head, but they all come with potentially unintended consequences. And so, at this point in time, and I think you have to think about it, what would happen in the short term, and then what becomes the long-term norm for the township. So I think that's an important consideration into any decision, if this were to become a benefit to township employees. In most cases, or at least I think, there is, if you don't have health insurance today, there is the open marketplace. And that is certainly tied directly to income levels, federal income to taxable income levels. And so, is there a path that maybe there is no necessarily a township plan that is sponsored, but rather maybe moving into a situation where the individual secures what they need on the open marketplace, but then what is the mechanism? Something along the lines, and I'm just spitballing here, I'm just throwing out ideas. So, if I had something on the open marketplace, and I'll just, by hypothetical numbers, it costs me $350 a month. I'm just
Mhm.
making a number up here. And that's coverage that my family can deal with, in terms of an expense. And so knowing that not every family's equal, you could have somebody at $175, you could have somebody at $400. So would it be reasonable to consider that the township would reimburse the lesser of the actual monthly premium to the employee, or a cap of $400 if they've got a higher plan? And again, throwing out hypothetical numbers.
Mhm.
And so the unintended consequence that was coming to me was that if I reimbursed, and let's just pick the number of $400. If I reimburse the employee $4,800, then in essence, that's gonna get treated as part of their W-2. Because it's gonna be treated as income to them. So there's tax ramifications to that. On the other hand, does a employee paying their monthly premium? So for example, by way of example, if I paid my monthly premium in September and in the month of October, or even maybe on a quarterly basis, however it would function, that they would submit for an expense reimbursement. And that expense reimbursement, and help me here, but I don't think that comes in as taxable then. That comes back as an out-of-pocket expense. But I don't know if that's subject to any other types of federal, state, or any other withholding taxes. I mean, if I submit a Verizon bill, like Chief does for, he's submitting his actual bill for $40 or $50 that he has paid, and that's coming back to him in the form of an expense reimbursement.
No,
It's
that's not how that happens. That's a stipend.
It's a stipend?
He gets
Okay,
automatically every month.
okay. So
And I think health benefits would be taxable.
I would think so too.
Mhm.
So it seems to me that to get because it's a very small group today. We don't have any density. And even as it might expand, the diversity, I think, is really high between the mix of what the family and the individual needs. And so it's hard for me to envision that, trying to find a box that, everybody can fit into. I like the idea. I just not sure how to get there.
So in the last sentence on page 286, I indicate some type of HSA account. So for a while, I belonged to, I forget the name of the company, but for $1 a month, they administered my HSA accounts. So they would receive payments from the employer. It was all pre-tax because I never touched it.
Right.
It was only third-party clearinghouse. Then it was not tax deductible, but it was pre-tax dollars going into the HSA account. And I think, I think you're allowed like $6,800 or something like that, whatever it is now. So that might be something that the township can just, for a very small monthly fee, wash their hands of any accounting, any tax issues. And I kind of like that as an intermediate step, because, the people I contacted about health insurance, you want a group plan for one or two, I mean, most people, the conversation was very short.
Well, I have a general problem with, obviously, we know who these two employees are that have been, that the examples were given for, but I don't think that that is something that the township should be doing. I mean, if you're gonna have a healthcare plan, other people need to be able to join it. For instance, as we've said, there may be incoming new board members next year. And some of them might be interested in a healthcare plan. And so just looking at something for two individuals, yeah, the cost is gonna be astronomical. I'd like to know what other townships do, because, you know, obviously the big townships, I'm sure they're providing health insurance for their employees because those are careers for some of those people. And, you know, they may be carrying the health insurance for their family. What do other townships this size do? What do they have? What do they, are they able to offer anything? To me, it has to be available to board members and full-time employees like the pension plan is. To me, it needs to be available to a minimum, those people. Everybody else is very part-time, but you know, and we've got some independent contractors, which of course it wouldn't be applied to them. But you know, there might be a time when some of our independent contractor jobs are brought in-house. And so then we create a position for that. You know, this township is growing all the time, and you know, I just think getting, I mean, I found those numbers frightening. I don't have a clue where you're gonna find it in the budget. But it has to apply to just more than two people, because it has to be offered to more than just two people.
So whatever plan we would come up with, it would be available to anybody who can participate in the retirement, right?
Well, that's
So
what the retirement
that-
has been, the
That's without
retirement.
saying.
Yeah.
And all the members who were interested were included in this survey.
All the members of the board.
All the members, no, not the board, because we all have something different going on. Now, maybe you want to change. But for a comparison of just insurance, I'm not going to change what I have.
And I'm more talking about new board members coming in, who might need health insurance.
Yep.
And want something, there to be something available. You know, is it, you know, there's the pension plan has been established, but honestly, what's more important, health insurance or a pension plan? I mean, that's kind of the way I look at it. For some people, health insurance would be way more important than the pension plan that they're not going to get the benefit of for, you know, 20, 30 years down the road. So, but, you know, we have the pension ordinance, it is what it is, and elected officials and full-time employees are eligible for that. I just wonder if some, you know, I just don't know. I can ask around to clerks, you can ask around to supervisors. What do townships of our size, like Paradise, what do they do? Do they offer health insurance? If so, through who? How do they pay for it? Or is it, just, I'm sure it's not a Cadillac plan like what the federal government has. But
Paradise has an 80-20 plan through Jennifer. And that's who provided this proposal. East Bay, they go through Burnham and Flowers.
okay,
Again, another 80%, but
right,
to your point,
right.
even Paradise is, I think, larger than we are. And so Grant.
Well, they have close to the same population.
Yeah,
that
it's
we do.
pretty close.
Yeah.
Yep. But
Yeah.
clearly they have a water tower going on there. We don't. So there's a whole lot more happening. I realize that that's in the village of Kingsley.
Yeah,
But,
right.
you know, there's a whole lot more going on there. There's a vibrant downtown community, which we just don't have.
Well, and we don't have it because our zoning ordinance has kept businesses out of here for a long time, and even now is attempting, I've been to these planning workshops, these people that want these minimum lot sizes that are gonna squeeze out the young families. Our school over here is about to fold up and close.
Yep.
We don't have any firefighters, very few firefighters who live in the township. It's because there's nothing going on here. Something could be made to happen here with a more welcoming attitude toward both residents and businesses. Look at Elk Rapids Township. Their roster of firefighters is full. Some of them can leave their jobs. The big problem the chief has is that he doesn't have any firefighters close by who can leave their jobs during the day. We used to have that, but apparently we don't anymore. But, maybe some businesses would move in. Maybe some businesses would find it attractive to move here and would support emergency services personnel if they had them on their staff. So it's really kind of a vicious circle. The anti-growth attitude here is fostering all kinds of issues with not enough tax revenue. It's costing people. If there were more people here, the burden would be spread amongst a larger amount of people and would be a smaller burden for everybody. I don't know. I guess, the figures are high and health insurance is very expensive. And, so I don't, where are you gonna find it in the budget? Budget is difficult to,
So I like the idea
No.
of coming up with some kind of formula to contribute to an HSA account. And maybe like the retirement account, we base it on payroll. So, is it 10%, 20% of payroll, whatever the number happens to be. And then I don't know what the cap is for employer contribution to an HSA, but I know there is a number. Because I think that's more sustainable for the township.
Well, it makes the administration part of it. I mean, the contribution goes in and it's going into a third party.
Yep.
And then the employee is managing their funds on how they see fit for
Yep.
their family.
and if they don't spend them, they lose them, is my understanding in an HSA. I've never had one, but, don't they have to be spent by a certain deadline? Or they lose them?
But I'm sure by now you can roll those over to a certain amount. I would think.
Yeah, I'm with you, Cheryl. I've never had an HSA. I know just a little about it.
Yeah.
But I know it used to be a use it, lose it, but I think they've made some provisions that may not entirely be the case.
Well, we just
but-
have to have all that information brought back with all the details and something specific and, who's gonna administer it, who's going to tell employees about it, answer employees' questions. We're not gonna do that in the clerk's office. We're not gonna take that on. If we have to deduct something out of somebody's a payroll account, I'm sure we can figure out how to do that. But we're not taking on a human resources function in my office having to do with, I mean, we already have enough to do with, you know, just the pension thing. We don't have very many people in the pension thing, which makes it manageable. But you know, I'm certainly not going to be the one that's going to become intimately familiar with HSAs and, you know, be signing people up and, you know, they'd have to, I would think we would go through somebody, for instance, you know, certain pension questions. I just refer people to Burnham and Flower. Maybe we would have somebody like that. We would have an agent that they would go through to get signed up and, you know, that type of thing.
So if I'm reading you right, Cheryl, we need to limit the outlay to the township to a manageable contribution, which then may not necessarily be health insurance, but might be contribute to an HSA, which then the individual employee can use as they see fit for medical expenses. And if that means it pays a certain percentage of their open market, then it pays a certain percentage of their open market.
Well, if they can use it for that, I don't know. Here again, I don't know anything about HSAs. I don't know how funds get expended out of HSAs. It sounds like you've had one and you know more about that. I'm just,
You get a credit card.
okay,
get.
so you get a credit
Yeah,
card, so.
says HSA rate on it.
Okay, so then you go down to urgent care and you've got a, you
Yep.
know, broken finger or something, and you give them your HSA card and it's got $300 on it and it's a $400 bill, so that empties out their HSA and they pay the other 100 out of their pocket?
In
Is that
my,
how that works?
in my case, the administrator would cover the cost and then bill you.
Yeah, we're not gonna do that.
No, you're not the
My office isn't.
administrator. Cheryl.
Okay, good. I
You're
was
not
gonna,
the
well, good,
administrator.
I wanna just get that
Gee
clear.
whiz.
We're not gonna be doing those
No,
those
But
duties.
that's how.
Okay,
That's how
see,
my.
you know way more than I do about HSAs. So, I don't know how they work.
HSA seems the right way to go, Don.
It feels right.
Okay,
It feels right.
so I
I
think
mean,
that's.
it's something, I think that is something you can look into and bring the information back, and the rest of the other board, the members that aren't here will, you know, see what they think about it too.
Item number 4, Gosling Zubek.
Let me get there for a second. Just making a note here.
Wrong button. Yeah. Let me know when you're there.
Yep.
I'll make the motion as published for discussion purposes.
I'll second.
Motion made and seconded. Further discussion?
Seems reasonable. To get them going on some design services for this project.
I would agree with your statement that it's reasonable, but I do want to point out that depending on how this design services unfolds, I don't believe it. This is, this is not the upper limit of it.
Mhm.
The PrAC had received two other very comprehensive bids, but they were very open-ended because the question, there's just unanswered questions in terms of what's going to be required by Eagle to issue a permit on this. And it didn't,
Yep.
it made a lot of sense to me in the PrAC meeting that until that scope of services was better defined, why contract for X of, tens of thousands of dollars when, the truth is somewhere in between. It's not 6, but it's, it's not
Correct.
65,000 either. And I thought
Right.
this was a very good a good intermediate step to let's get this designed, get it to Eagle, and then lock down what else might be specifically needed. So we're not just wasting any of the services that aren't germane to the project.
Well, you have to, because in order to apply for a permit, you have to have a plan. And you have to have drawings that have to be uploaded to their website. It's all done through the internet. And so until you have a plan, you really can't, and they say right in their documentation, I'm sure everybody read it, that it doesn't, they don't know until they see, what you're proposing, that they're going to issue a permit or not, but you have to start somewhere.
Yeah, and you can't even
And that's
begin,
what this is a start.
Yeah. you can't even begin to get a full scope of the project expense until we get off the ground. And this is the launch pad.
That's right.
And I want to use that very comment, although against you.
Right ahead.
So, I think on the bottom of 329, this proposal does not include topographical survey, wetland delineation, or permitting services. I think we have to have 2 of those 3 involved at this stage. So we can get, what I understood from reading this is that, it's PrAC's goal to get a document for a comprehensive bid.
Go ahead, let's finish.
Yep. And so, to Cheryl's point and to your point, we don't know if there's 1 foot or 100 foot of wetland. And we don't know what the topographical survey is. I'm very sensitive to topographical surveys at this point because it has caused nothing but trouble at the park. Nothing but trouble. So if we want a comprehensive bid to come out of this, I think spending a little more money to get those 2 items done now will benefit us in the future.
And I'm going to disagree with you to the,
Okay.
I think if we were moving from this preliminary into a comprehensive bid, I would agree with you 100%. This first step is to get together the package to go in front of Eagle to see what
Okay.
is that they will require, how extensive that is, and then coming back and say, okay, I don't have to buy, $100 worth of something because I only need 50 to satisfy Eagle.
Okay.
And now that I can add those in, now I can package that up because now I know what's going to be required to get that permit.
And so you don't think a wetland delineation will be needed by DNR?
Don't know. I can't be certain of that. I haven't done this before, Ron, so the
Yeah.
likelihood is yes, but my researching wetland delineation, there are multiple levels of what services have to be provided. And I think that's what that's what the PrAC is trying to do, is take the guesswork out of that. What do we think Eagle wants versus Eagle telling us what we need? And so,
And so some other comments that I have are all on that same page. We're gonna determine gravel and bridge areas, gravel trail areas, boardwalk areas.
Yeah, for the wet areas, they're going to determine how much boardwalk.
So you just went right back to where I was at with wetland. So if you don't know what's wet, how are you gonna determine that?
And you need an engineer to do it. This is
I
to get
get it, I
engineering
get it.
services to get this project started. They can't say specifically, you have to have engineered drawings to upload to Egley to get them to even look at your project to see whether they will permit it or not.
Okay.
So it's all the beginning stages.
And I agree with Cheryl on her statements. I also would point out, I think they're included in here. No, they did not include them. Gosling Zubit has they supplied projects, doing like a Grass Lake nature. They had a number of projects, where they did very similar type of work here.
Okay.
So this, I think there was a comfort level, at least I felt that they were well qualified to be involved in this project to help make those delineations between what is needed and what's
Okay.
not. So, but that's personal opinion. I've never worked with Gosling Zubik. I've merely looked at their material and looked at the past projects that they've done for reference.
On packet page 331. Ownership of documents.
That's a standard clause.
Again, I'm going back to the feel I got that we're gonna use these documents to go out for a bid. Matter of fact, I think Melissa even says that.
Yes.
Okay. And so, this seems to impede us on that. I just want to make sure that, Gosling Zubek, if they draw this up, we can use it for other purposes than theirs.
I would point to, maybe this doesn't add to any relief to you, but the third sentence that starts upon full payment of all amounts due here and under, GCES will furnish copies of
Yep.
suitable original drawings and other final work products in the form required by the applicable law to the client.
Continue on to the next sentence, please.
Right. Such documents furnished to the client are not intended to represent to be suitable for use by the client or other extensions of the project or any other project. Yeah, I mean, and I think, I don't know, I guess that didn't give me as much pause, because that seems to be, the fact that, if somebody else is going to take their work and use it, they may have to make some adjustments for their services. I see your point.
And I agree with Cheryl. I think that this is kind of standard, for example, out at the park. Andrew is allowing me to use a portion of his site plan so we can develop an electrical service plan.
Right.
Right? So even though I'm sure those documents or the professional service agreement probably had document ownership in it, I just want to,
Sure.
bring it to the
yeah.
attention.
Yeah.
And, here's our question again. Here's an agreement. And at what level do we have the attorneys look at terms and conditions of agreements?
I think we've looked at a number of these. This is their standard agreement. And it spells out what work they're gonna do, and they're well-respected engineering firm in this community and probably statewide. And I just don't think we need to send every little one of these to the attorney's office, because I think it's a waste of money. I think it spells out what they're going to do. And that if additional services are required, there'll be an additional fee. This is just the beginning, just to get Egley involved in this and
Who's
get
Egley?
Eagle. I call him Egley. EGLE.
Okay,
So,
so my last question is on 329. Review of documentation and assistance in determining right for land use outside of township-owned parcels. What does that mean?
where's that in here?
Packet page 329. Work scope item number 9.
My understanding of that document was that the chairperson of the PrAC was looking at the book that's in the clerk's office to see what easements might exist on adjacent properties for the township. And if we presented a easement to Zubik Gosling Zubik, they would review that and see if that has any impact on the project. I don't know that they're gonna find anything in that.
Well,
book.
I don't think, respectfully, Don, I don't think that's exactly it. I think that, if you look on that map, which is a little misleading, I forget what page that's on now, but that map is a little misleading. The map isn't required to be submitted, to the county or anything, but they've got about connecting a trail.
334.
Yeah, right, 334. And there's also on there, that's another project, but that's not part of this project. To acquire, to gain an easement, if it's even possible, across, some other property to connect the BCNA trail to the Lossy Road Nature Trail. That's not part of this. This is only to deal with the wetlands mitigation and the replacement of the footbridge, which
Mm.
is all on Whitewater Township property.
Then why is it on this print?
Because this map was used for some other things. I already talked to Melissa about this and I said, if this map's got to go to the county, we need to take that off there because it's not.
Right.
And the map's not part of the agreement.
That was just,
Yeah,
It-
that goes to, no, that's
no, I
part of.
added that in as just a reference point as I did last time.
Right, it's not part of the Gosling Zubak agreement and it's not part of the application for the ARPA funds through the county either.
It's the only thing that I had that showed a representation of where the bridge project was.
Yeah.
So.
So there isn't any, that particular language doesn't apply here.
The PrAC did not provide me with the Eagle letter or the map, and I thought they might be helpful in our discussion. To put those in there. I guess I probably should have noted that in my memo if I didn't.
I might have missed it. But it explains a lot coming up on the next business item. That's for sure. And so then that strikes off my request for an overlay of Google Earth. And how come we're not using GIS?
Yeah, I didn't prepare that.
Right,
So
right. Well,
I think
everything
that-
we've gotten from PrAC uses Google Earth. And I'm wondering why we're not using GIS, because there we can turn layers on and off and we can see where our trail impedes private property. It would be so helpful. And I would be more than happy to make that introduction to you and Josh. Or Melissa and Josh. He works so inexpensively for us.
Mhm.
For all
Downtown
townships.
County, yeah.
Yeah, for all townships, not just us. So the connector trail is not part of this. Any other questions? Roll call when ready.
Bob,
Yes.
Bennett is absent, Valmuth is absent, Goss, yes, Glenn,
Yes.
I'll make a motion to execute the American Rescue Plan, ARPA, Coronavirus State and Local Fiscal Recovery Funds Funding Agreement for revenue replacement required by Grand Traverse County in the amount of $95,917 and submitted to the county by December 11th, 2023 deadline.
second.
Motion made and seconded. Further discussion?
Well, one thing I would say is that since I don't have any formal role with the park anymore, parks, I think probably, maybe Don should be the one to sign this agreement. You know, the application for the, grant funds was submitted under my name, but, I just think it'd be probably, I mean, I won't be going to the planning commission meetings. I'm not planning commission, Parks and Rec meetings. I won't have the latest information on this. So I think probably it should be Don who signs it.
And I will not be signing it.
And I wouldn't sign it either.
Why not?
So I've
Please
got no
explain.
less than 10 danger flags in this agreement.
This is their standard agreement. It was a fill in
Doesn't
the
matter,
blank
Cheryl.
agreement of all the things that have to be complied with, that Whitewater Township has to comply with. So just because, it doesn't matter whose name is on it, the entire township has to comply with this wonderful award of nearly $96,000 that can be traced to the efforts of two of our Parks and Rec committee members who spent a lot of time putting this application together. And it would be foolhardy for the township not to accept these monies and put them, you know, towards the project that they were applied for. It's not too often $96,000 comes down the road. And yes, are there things you have to comply with? Yes, there are. But I mean, if you're gonna, I think it's foolish to anybody to refuse to sign it. I'll sign it if no one else will, but there's no valid basis to not sign it, no valid basis to not apply for these funds that all kinds of other municipalities are applying for and putting to good use in their township or city or county or whatever the municipality may be. And there will be a lot of help from the county to make sure that, you know, we're meeting all the requirements of this. Certainly they've got more familiarity with it than anyone here, at the township. And they can, I feel confident they would walk us through the process, and they're here to help us be successful in this.
Well, whether you sign it, Don signs it, or I sign it, I'm not gonna bind the township to this for several reasons. Number one, can you tell me what 2 CFR is? How about 24 CFR? Have
Do you know what it is?
I do,
Oh,
as a
okay,
matter of
good for you.
fact.
Okay,
Yeah.
good. Well,
At least 2. I
we
don't
don't-
know what 24 is.
We don't, yeah, so we will, well, we have to comply with these things.
That's right.
And it doesn't mean that all of us sitting at the table here have to be fluent with all of these federal regulations and stuff like that. In order to, put this forward, we will have to be compliant with all that stuff. Quite honestly, this is a small project, in my opinion. There's not gonna be, yes, everything's gotta be, but you submit your reimbursements and as your request for reimbursements, and you keep your records. That's basically what it is. And you, don't discriminate in who you hire. Yes, we've already accepted federal money. So with the township ARPA money. So this is just accepting more federal money that the county board of commissioners thought that Whitewater Township should be given to complete a worthwhile project in the community. So I don't see a problem with binding ourselves to this, and I don't see that it's gonna be that difficult to comply.
I think to Cheryl's point, we've already accepted some of this stuff with the large grant from this, that we took, a year ago. Not a lot of this is dissimilar, but I still stand by my statement. I'm not gonna sign it, and if Clerk Goss wants to sign it, then I suggest that I would ask that maybe the motion be modified.
So I'm gonna respectfully disagree with you.
Well,
So
somebody has to sign it.
when receiving the ARPA funds directly from the federal government, we had a plan of exactly what it was gonna be spent on. And 2 CFR gives us, or the final ARPA guidelines tells us these things can be used, or those funds can be used for these things. So we selected 2 out of the 3 that were gimmies, fire truck and fiber. Okay. Now, as far as trails, those 2 are also mentioned in guidance, anything with outdoor activities. However, as this document indicates, we have to make sure that our expenditures are consistent with those CFRs. And to Cheryl's point earlier, there's nobody here in the township that's gonna do that. And unless we make a person responsible for it, and I am still not sold on this at all. Reimbursements, there's a 5-year clawback here if we get audited. Okay?
For
It's-
everybody. For all the people who are, all the entities who are accepting these funds. It's not just us. It's all the people who are accepting these funds. All the entities. This is their standard agreement. Are you saying you're gonna vote no on this agreement?
I am
And
saying
you
that.
are going to turn down
Yes, I am saying that.
$96,000 to come into the township after all the time that 2 Parks and Rec committee members spent, who they were approved by the board to put the time and effort into us and to apply for these funds. The chief also applied for funds, unfortunately did not get them, scored only a couple 3 points lower than what this park request. You're saying you're going to throw away $96,000. No, I'm saying, no, if you.
No, you're
if
saying
you-
that.
If you.
What
if
does
we
section 6 of this agreement
if
say,
we-
Cheryl?
Take.
Can you
these
tell me what
funds-
section 6 of
Excuse
this
me, I'm
agreement?
making my point. I'm not answering your questions right now.
Oh, okay. can't.
If we don't approve this today, then this $96,000 that has been awarded to Whitewater Township for a very specific project that the Parks and Rec Committee has been talking about for years, which is on their recreation plan, has been on their recreation plan for years, you're just gonna thumb your nose at $96,000 that the township isn't gonna have to come up with to do this project. You're just gonna, you're just throwing it all away. No
First of
one's efforts were worth any of their time.
First of all, when the
Right.
board agreed to apply for these funds, this document was not presented to us.
Well, of course not.
Because this is a Johnny-come-lately document, which I think has been out now for a couple of months. And why we're seeing it at the 12th hour,
I think
I have
it's-
no idea.
I think it's been out longer than that, and we
Yeah.
just
And
hadn't
just
gotten
now.
around to
Yep.
applying for the funds.
So under section 6, failure to perform. Under multiple sections, what happens if the budget that we sent in gets changed? Can you tell me what happens?
Well, the budget has to go with this document.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the budget that we submitted says this project is $143,000.
And if the budget is over 143, well, first of all.
What happens if the budget gets changed? In this contract,
I'm
it
go-
says specifically. What happens?
If the budget comes in under 143,000, well, first of all, they're only going to reimburse up to $95,917. So it doesn't matter what your budget is.
Incorrect.
No, yes, no,
Incorrect.
that is not correct. They're
Better
only
read
going
6 and 7.
they're only going to reimburse because that's all the grant is for. And they're going to reimburse if they're supplied with the proper documentation and appropriate expenses that fit this project. They're going to reimburse up to $95,917. So we already know that or I shouldn't say we know. It's guesstimated that this project is going to cost more than that.
Yep.
So, it doesn't matter if we spend beyond
It
that.
does. According to this agreement, it does.
Page number?
Well, you read it.
Well, what page
You read
number are
the
you on?
agreement.
Oh,
And
no, I've read
this
the
also-
entire agreement.
This also gives the county the ability to terminate the project
Well, sure.
if they think it's going to go over significantly the budget
Okay,
that's
so
proposed.
section 6, failure, well, of course, the county is protecting themselves as they should. So there's nothing wrong with the county protecting themselves. Not at all.
I'm gonna weigh in here. This thing is riddled. This thing is riddled with compliance issues that you've said it how many times yet today, how busy you are, how much you have very little time to take care of the clerk's duties, let alone manage a project like this. This is why I won't sign it,
okay,
because
okay.
this is riddled with requirements, compliance, reporting, and there's unwritten definitions in here.
Don, whoever signs this is not personally taking on the management of this project. Let's be absolutely clear. Whoever signs this is only signing as an authorized representative of the township. The entire agreement talks about Whitewater Township as the organization. Okay, so we have a parks manager, we have a Parks and Rec advisory committee, we have you, the parks liaison from the township board to the Parks and Rec advisory committee. Those are the people who are going to be managing this project. My office will be happy to pay bills, and quite frankly, if you want us to submit the requests on their form, we're happy to do that. But the person who signs this document is not responsible for managing this project, and nowhere in this document does it say that. They are just as I signed the grant application to the county simply as a representative of the township, a member of a 5-member board. Okay, the board is who is going to be, the board representing the township is who is the organization that's talked about here. Organization is required to do this. Organization is required to do that. Not just one person specifically. And this document does not say that.
So that was a red herring speech.
Oh, please,
So,
stop with your drama.
Let me be clear that liaison does not equal project manager. I will
Yeah.
not be managing this project in any way, shape, or form.
You will be assisting the Parks and Rec Committee to bring forward
I will transfer information back and forth between the PrAC.
and and that's your job, Don, to bring
Thank
things
you.
to
I
the
know what
board
liaison's
that
definition
need to
is.
be voted on, and to offer advice to the town, to the Parks and Rec Committee as a board member. Quite honestly, on the boat launch project, you know, we have Ron as the, you know, and here again, let's get back to it. The township policy says that the supervisor is the project manager on capital improvement projects. That's what the policy says. Okay, and so you tried to get out of that until it was brought to your attention that that's what the township policy says, is that you are the project manager. You are going to be the project manager on this project too, because that's what the policy says. And so for both of you to sit here and say that, try to infer that I'm going to be the project manager if I sign this, that is, first of all, it's not, doesn't say that in the document. And second, township policy dictates who the project manager is going to be. If you don't want to be the project manager, you don't want to be the supervisor, then step down. Okay, but that's what the policy says. And so it is a kick in the teeth.
So I'm.
A kick in the teeth to the Parks and Rec Committee.
Because of the ongoing diatribe.
Well, it's
Okay.
a, you know, it's
So
a kick in the
I
teeth.
am
and
leaving this meeting
Who on Zoom?
and.
We have Melissa. How
Doesn't-
about we hear
no.
from a couple members of the Parks and Rec Committee? I don't know if this Tom is Tom Cosgrove, but how about we listen to Melissa, who has worked her tail off.
So
to
instead
get
of,
these funds.
instead of doing your drama, why don't we deal with the issues in section 6? Why don't we deal with the issues in section 7?
Okay.
Because you likely haven't read the contract.
I read the entire contract.
So
I
what
don't
about
have a
section 9?
I don't have a
specifically
problem with
provision
any
B?
of it, because it's not any different than what we have to comply with for the township's own ARPA funds.
That's wrong.
It's not any different.
It's wrong.
No, it's not.
Yes. So,
We
for
still have
example,
to comply with all the federal regulations. We
nope.
just have the county as a
do we
middleman.
have to insure the independent contractors that do the work for the fire truck? Do we have to insure the independent contractors that install the fiber? No. Do we have to insure the independent contractors that do this work? Yes.
Yeah, so,
So it's not the same,
So?
is it, Cheryl? And do we have to include vehicular insurance
okay.
for our federal ARPA funds?
Are you gonna allow some Melissa to speak, or are you just gonna keep giving speeches?
Well, I want to solve the issues in the agreement.
I don't have a problem with the agreement. I'm ready to vote yes on this.
Okay, roll call when ready.
What are the issues in the agreement? How are you gonna
You
solve them?
said you were ready to vote.
How are you gonna solve the issues in the
Roll call
agreement?
when ready.
How are you gonna solve the issues in the agreement? You have no solutions? Youth is absent. Goss, yes. Glenn?
No.
Bennett is absent. Pop?
No.
Sorry, Melissa, you just got kicked in the teeth again.
Next item is motion to discuss how someone will be paid when the board authorizes someone other than the clerk or her deputy to take minutes and then process them for board approval.
Pages.
355.
I'll second the for conversation.
My thoughts are, I don't really totally understand where Heidi's going. I get the gist. Clerk's responsibility to take minutes, we all know that. It's the clerk's budget, then that's affected.
If it's not the clerk, it's the deputy clerk.
Yep.
Deputy clerk is not being paid to be on call and is not always available. So it may be a board member sometimes, unless you don't want to hire Lois. You don't want her hired, so maybe it's gonna be a board member. I'm putting you on notice right now that I'm not sure how many meetings I'm gonna have to miss with a February 27th election. I may have to miss some budget meetings due to other responsibilities. So someone will have to take the minutes. Heidi already got paid to be at the meeting, $220 to be at the
Do you have
meeting.
dates in February?
You haven't set any budget dates yet?
No, I just want to know when to set the budget meetings.
The election is February 27th. You will not be holding a budget meeting that day, and I'll be blocking out some other time on the February schedule when this hall will be used for other things, election related.
Well, please let us know when that is as quickly
can
as
look it up.
possible.
Well, when I get time to do it, I will.
We'll schedule a different meeting place. That's
Well,
easy enough.
And you can schedule a different meeting place all you want, but if I'm busy with election stuff, I won't be there.
Now you're getting to the point.
That's right.
So-
That's what I just said. That was the absolute point I made.
So the matter at hand, does this fall into a situation where Heidi would have been, could be compensated with the additional compensation plan at that rate? But the expense charged to the clerk's budget for that.
So my take on this document is she wants to know where the money's gonna come from before she submits an invoice. Do you have a different read on this document? Which I don't know why the two correlate.
Well, Heidi would have to be approved to be paid for doing minutes before we're ever gonna accept an invoice. Or pay an invoice.
Well, the board took action and there was a motion and a second and a roll call vote.
But they didn't vote to pay her for that. It was only that she take the minutes.
So it's your point then, Cheryl, that the board did not vote to pay Heidi for that duty.
Same issue as the board didn't vote to pay Lois for that duty. Same scenario.
I think you still paid Lois though, right?
Lois got paid.
Okay, good.
Well, it was, I took it and I took it out of the clerk's budget.
So why is this one different?
It's not.
So as I,
And 10 hours to prepare minutes is ridiculous. That was her decision to spend that much time on the minutes. When a recording secretary gets paid, per the salary wage schedule, as you all know, they get paid in this fiscal year, $53 an hour for their attendance at the meeting and to do the minutes. So it doesn't matter if they were at the meeting for 2 hours and it takes them 10 hours to do the minutes, they get paid $106. Heidi already got paid $220 to go to the meeting. I don't know why she would be paid further for attendance at the meeting. It's up to you if you want to pay her. If you want to pay her to do minutes, then make a motion for that. So far, the only line item she gets paid on, well, two, Township Board and Planning Commission.
well, there's other sensitivities here too, right? There's two sets of minutes plus a recording secretary doesn't normally do the synopsis, but she did the synopsis as well. So
Well, the
Um,
recording secretary does do the synopsis because I do the synopsis. I take the minutes for the board and I do the synopsis. I don't get paid any extra to do that.
and my point is that the recording secretary pay does not account for that. So the.
No, it
53
doesn't, but it shouldn't have taken too long either.
Well, it took whatever it took.
Well, if it took a week, we pay her for a week to do a synopsis,
Is that a motion?
1 page. No, I'm not making any motions.
Yeah, that's what I was looking for too.
It's not too,
I didn't pick up on the 10-hour thing.
I didn't either.
So your thought was, the
Additional copy.
additional compensation program?
Mm-hmm. Yep. And then line item against the clerk's budget.
Yep. So. Looking,
We haven't even voted on this motion to discuss. Is there gonna be a vote on that? Motion to discuss how someone will be paid when the board authorizes someone other than the clerk or her deputy to take minutes and then process them for final board approval. Is it motion not voted on?
was the motion seconded?
It was.
Yeah, I did.
Okay, so aren't we in discussion, Cheryl? Interesting.
You don't vote on the motion? It's a motion with a second. You don't vote on that?
Sure.
Eventually, but right now we're in the
But
discussion.
aren't we in
portion.
discussion?
But you're discussing the pay. Okay, but it's a motion to discuss. It's not the motion to pay. Whatever.
I can see that point.
So it looks like the additional activities compensation program is at $20 an hour.
I would agree.
So the motion then would be if we take her 10 hours for $200, is that the correct math?
Yes. I mean, 10 times 20.
So dispatch the motion that's out there. Roll call when ready.
I'll get to it in just a moment. Gus, yes. Glenn.
Yes.
Bennett is absent. Pop.
Yes.
Baumuth is absent.
Make a motion. To a trustee Bowman. $200. For the minutes of 10/19, was it?
Yes.
And the special minutes of 10/19?
For the minutes of 10/19 and the special minutes of 10/19? That's what you said.
And to include the synopsis of the 10/19 public meeting. funds to be charged against clerks account. I don't care if you want to take it out of 702, 703. It's up to you. Which one would you prefer? 703?
I'll think about it when I see the bill. It's not gonna be out of 702. Why would it? That's an elected official wage.
So my motion will include 703.
I'll second.
Motion made and seconded for the discussion. Roll call when ready.
Excuse me, I was finishing typing what the second was. I do have some discussion.
Hmm.
The minutes of 10:19. Okay, so first of all, on the Monday, after that meeting, it's in my clerk's report, this month, that I sent Heidi several emails offering her assistance with the minutes. She asked me for my template. I sent my special meeting template to her, a Word document for a special meeting minutes, notes to turn into meeting minutes. And, she had a couple other questions. I told her that they had to be sequentially numbered. She apparently figured out how to do that. But honestly, she produced 3 pages. Okay, 3 pages, and she's claiming it took her 10 hours with what? A trip here and a trip there in between? I mean, honestly, that is a joke to believe that, it took her actually 10 hours to type 3 pages. I'll be voting no. Talk about padded. Her incompetence at doing minutes should not be rewarded with pay for 20 bucks an hour for 10 hours.
It's really not right to be disparaging or another. They're not here to defend
And
themselves.
it's, yeah, well, she's disparaged me in her memo, so I'm just replying to the entire situation that anybody would spend 10 hours on minutes for what, a 3-hour meeting? I didn't look and see how long the meeting was. 2 to 3 hour meeting. I'm ready to vote.
I've called for roll call vote, so
Glenn,
Yes.
Pop,
yes.
Goss, no. Valmuth is absent and Bennett is absent. I guess that sets a precedent, doesn't it?
There's no motion on the next item, but it's for a special meeting request from the planning commission. I took a quick peek at our budget in the township board. I think we're currently at 6,800 as of the end of October out of 10,000. Looks like we got a lot of special meetings coming up.
It's budget.
It's budget. Plus, I know there's gonna be at least one more per park. Cause I can just see that change order.
I'm available either date. Heidi said she was available either date. And quite frankly, I'm not even sure we need a quorum of the board. If this is just an informational session, back and forth, maybe ask a few questions, get some answers, and we're not voting on anything. We don't need a quorum of the board.
Then we can attend any of their meetings to accomplish this.
Well, they want to focus specifically on, they have some topics that they want to vote or focus, I'm sorry, specifically on. They got blown off on their 11-9 meeting. And honestly, I'm available for either date. And I think we should hear what our planning commission has to say. They are trying to work with us and keep us in the loop and give us information. We don't get a lot from Heidi, quite frankly. It's better to get it in an open meeting once in a while, where we can have a more free flow of information back and forth and ask questions and hear what they're doing.
So information back and forth indicates that it is a board decision. Because one board member representing themselves at the planning commission would be totally improper.
Well, one board member would only be representing their point of view. Certainly no board member would be sent to the planning commission, a joint meeting like this with authority to represent the whole board.
Don, what is your availability?
I just don't know what the meetings, the agenda's about. Right now I have some availability, but, it just, we call special meetings with a purpose, call meetings,
Right.
we know what the agenda is, and it just,
Well, I think that was laid out. There was an agenda for the 11-9 meeting. And that was posted on the website until just a couple days before that actual date. So they had an agenda. There will be an agenda. I'm sure it's a similar agenda to the one they had. Certainly, the planning commission is not going to have the board, not going to ask the board to come to a meeting and not have an agenda of what they'd like to cover. Like I say, they had an agenda and the meeting didn't happen. So they're looking for an alternate date.
How will you notice it without having the particulars?
Well, I have to have the agenda. I can't notice it without an agenda, but I'm sure that right now Rachel is just looking for us to find an alternative date. She has, and the agenda will come and I will get it posted. I don't need it today. If the 11-9 thing was still up, we could look at and see what the agenda was. Certainly everybody got it in their email. So everybody on the planning commission and the township board got the notice of that special meeting. So you had the agenda at one point. You may not have
Notice
it
and
right in front of
agenda
you.
are completely different.
No. The agenda is the same thing. It has to be because the special meeting has to follow the notice of what was put on the agenda.
I can do either date.
I do either date, but I'm just telling my availability is gonna be pending what the agenda is.
Sure. So anybody opposed to the 13th?
Good by me.
I already said I was available for either.
So let's tentatively do the 13th. Any tabled items? Board comments or discussion? Next board meeting is December 12th. No public here in the Township Hall. Anyone out in Zoom land wishing to make a comment? Hello, Melissa.
Hello, can you hear me? So obviously, I'm extremely disappointed in the board's vote today to throw away $96,000 of free money that was to benefit this township is extremely, I don't even know the word to say. It's very frustrating. I would ask if there's any possibility that the board would recognize the value in this, that they could make a special meeting to schedule it prior to the deadline of this ARPA agreement, which is for December 11th, which is, looks like one day before your normal meeting. So I don't know if it's possible to do a special meeting, maybe the week prior, 2 weeks prior, so that the board in its entirety can review the documents and have discussions on this agreement and what the issues are, and make note if there is issues, that it be noted on the agreement form to submit back to the county. I don't think the county's being unreasonable in requests for ARPA funding. I think they're trying to, as Cheryl had pointed out, they're trying to cover their bases in representing what the ARPA funding requirements are from the federal government, as we will have to as well within the township. And I don't see any difference in terms of contractual obligations that any other typical planned project would have. You know, we have a treasurer and we have a clerk, and we certainly within this project can have a designated project manager incorporated into it. I think that these are all feats that can be discussed and accounted for. So I would just hope that as a board, we can put our differences aside and try to work for the best for our community to make a natural trail system be the best that it can be, which it's not right now. It's unsafe. It needs to be resolved and improved. And, you know, we're trying our best as the Parks and Rec Committee, but we really do need support from the board as its entirety. That's all I have to say. Thanks.
Anyone else out in Zoom land wishing to make a comment? Hearing none. Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion made and seconded for the discussion. Roll call when ready.
Bennett is absent. Doss, yes. Glenn,
Yes.
Pop,
Yes,
Valmuth is absent.
12:19.